Welcome to the Musicuentos Black Box videocast, co-sponsored by musicuentos.com and Indwelling Language. This episode is developed and presented by me, Karen Tharrington, teacher, educator, and language enthusiast, coming to you from North Carolina. The topic of this episode is the effectiveness of written corrective feedback in teaching beginning German by Nina Vyatkina. It comes from the Foreign Language Annals Journal, volume 43.4, published in the winter edition of 2010. Dr. Nina Vyatkina is an associate professor of German applied linguistics and coordinator of the German language proficiency sequence at the University of Kansas. Teachers, do you ask your students to complete written assignments? Do you spend a good deal of time providing corrective feedback on those tasks? Perhaps using an a priori code list, clever symbols, or your own correction codes? Do you wonder if all this feedback is informing any change in your students' writing abilities? If so, this video is for you. In this study, the author starts off by acknowledging the ongoing debate surrounding the usefulness of written corrective feedback, with, unfortunately, inconclusive results. Regardless of this, instructors assign written tasks and spend countless hours and effort dutifully marking with the red pen. It's not helpful that some research says that more is better, while other studies show that less is more. Some say direct feedback works, others say indirect is better. What's a frazzled teacher to do? In her article, Vyatkina notes that, despite these differences of opinion, there have been general agreement among researchers that written corrective feedback may be effective, but its effectiveness depends on a number of variables, such as language instruction context, learner's proficiency level, and types of writing assignments. Okay, so written corrective feedback helps, but when? Her study looks at the relative effectiveness of several types of written corrective feedback for first semester German language learning students. The purpose of this study was to investigate whether beginning language learners of German improved their writing accuracy as a result of the revision and whether one corrective feedback type had more short-term and long-term advantages over another. What that means is, she wanted to know whether students made more or fewer errors after they got feedback from the teacher, both in the short term and the long term, and also between the students' drafts of the same writing assignment. She centralized her research around four main questions. Number 1, do revised essay drafts differ in length from rough drafts? 2, do error rates change differently in response to different written corrective feedback types in redrafting? 3, are different error categories affected differently by error treatment in redrafting? And 4, do error rates change differently in response to different written corrective feedback types over the course of a semester? Considering that learners would acquire new structures and practice them on subsequent essays, Vyatkina wasn't focusing on complete error reduction. She was more concerned about whether the variation in frequencies of different error categories between the 3 time points would correspond differently to 3 different feedback types. We can see the makeup of her population here. So let's look at the study. There were 5 German TAs who consistently used one of 3 of the following types of feedback in correcting 5-paragraph-long essays of novice German learners. It should be noted that this was all done electronically. In other words, students received written corrective feedback from their instructors with either errors underlined, errors coded in some way, or they got suggested corrections. The researcher got a copy with all errors coded in order to analyze the errors. Remember, Vyatkina was looking for overall error rate changes from draft to draft, not how many errors were fixed or ignored by students. So let's look at the results she found in her study. A lot of statistics were run on the data in order to come to the final analysis. If you want to geek out on ANOVAs, please see the charts in the article. For this videocast, I'm just going to briefly summarize the results in layman's terms. Regarding research question 1, Vyatkina's data analysis showed that students made revisions without shortening or lengthening their final drafts, and this happened regardless of the type of written corrective feedback received. This finding contrasted an earlier study by Truscott in 2007 that claimed learners avoid error correction by simply cutting out their effective parts, thus shortening their written work. Research question 2 about error rate changes showed that the students made significantly fewer errors related to verbs, nouns, word order, and spelling, as well as lexical and structural errors in the revised draft. This finding goes along with another by Ferris in 2006, demonstrating that self-editing leads to better final written products by students. Regarding research question 3, her data analysis found that all 3 types of written corrective feedback, that is, direct correction, coded, and uncoded, all led to similar accuracy improvements in most cases, between drafts in each of the error categories. This finding supports other research showing a reduction in errors with written corrective feedback conditions. Finally, research question 4. For this particular question, the author found no significant long-term differences between essay drafts in either error category. While some global errors improved, others did not. When looking at the different types of feedback, Vyatkina found that all types of written corrective feedback had some issues involved with the student's understanding of what was incorrect. Although the direct correction method in the draft resulted in higher accuracy improvements in the subsequent essays, there is a caveat here. Students in this study received feedback electronically, so it was very easy to copy and paste the correct forms and delete the wrong one. However, some students didn't delete the wrong form, or they added the correct form but in the wrong place. This shows that the mechanics of students' error correction needs a level of metacognition. That is, if students merely perform surface changes without thinking and understanding what they are doing, such editing does not contribute to their learning and only leads to instructors' wasted time and effort. The coded feedback with the incorrect form or word underlined and a metalinguistic hint to what the error was provided some assistance. It also led to some students' wrong guesses and erroneous corrections. The uncoded feedback, a line simply indicating an error, also led to students incorrectly guessing at the mistake. All this helps explain how complex written corrective feedback really is for teachers and students. Vyatkina notes that even the best intentions can lead to poor revisions. So what is the takeaway for teachers when it comes to written corrective feedback? Well, the first is that students seem to want to fix their errors. They don't just delete the wrong parts and shorten their writing. It also supports the process approach to writing involving multiple drafts, even at beginning levels. The findings show that written corrective feedback is helpful, especially with the process approach of multiple drafts. What they revealed is that there is no significant difference in the type of written corrective feedback. While direct feedback worked slightly better with these novice learners, the main implication of this study is that no feedback condition is beneficial if applied alone without strategically combining it with others. Teachers can be mindful of the different types of written corrective feedback and apply them at appropriate times with appropriate written presentational tasks at each stage of the instruction process. Teachers can think about what errors their students should be able to fix on their own versus ones that may be untreatable or words and structures that students are not yet familiar with. Another takeaway is that, especially for novice students, codes need to be clear and easy to interpret to help them see exactly what is wrong in the written output. In addition, marking every single error is tiring, so feedback should concentrate on several focal error types or specific problem errors for students, and not on every little issue. In other words, step away from the red pen. Be judicious in error correction. Finally, Vyatkina implemented several changes to the beginning German classes based on the results from this study. She added peer review and peer edit sessions, along with the written corrective feedback from instructors. Second, the longer essays with multiple drafts and written corrective feedback from instructors was supplemented with more frequent short writings. For these shorter tasks, there was no specific error correction involved, but instead she used a holistic comment about content and accuracy. This has been a presentation of the Musicuentos Black Box podcast, a collection of media resources intended to form an easy-to-access, easy-to-understand bridge between second language acquisition research and teacher practice in the world language classroom. For more information about the Musicuentos Black Box podcast collection of resources, including ways you can help keep this resource available to teachers everywhere, visit musicuentos.com/blackbox.